casting beyond your limits. And I welcome you warmly. Get yourself a nice warm beverage, and we will debate the old school two-dimensional teachings versus the new 3D learning teachings. I have structured for the first time this podcast in 4 little sections. First section is going to be the current flat earth teachings, the two-dimensional teachings in flycasting. The second section is going to be the three-dimensional teachings in flycasting. In the third section, we're going to talk about the positive reinforcement flycasting strategies and adaptive learning. And in the last section, we're going to talk specifically about controlled process casting, another program that I have developed to help you to gain control over your cast at all times and in all conditions.
Eventually, the rocks or timeless rains merge into one. I am haunted. Under the rocks are the words, and a river runs through, and some of the words are theirs.
Now, the two-dimensional teachings in casting, or as I call them, the Flat Earth Society teachings of flycasting, they just stick to the 4-5 principle. They repeat them over and over again, and they make it look that as if it is simple and easy, and they always make the teacher look good and never the students. And the advice you get when you progress the casting is, just learn these principles here and go and practice. You will get there eventually. If it doesn't work, practice more. Now let me tell you something, my brother. I tried this for 20 years and it does not work. The principles is very difficult because your mind is always overwhelmed with these teachings.
The problem with all instruction is that we get so overwhelmed with all of the details and things that we have to remember that we forget the essence of what we're doing.
And because your mind is always overwhelmed, there's always people making up some analogies that make it better, like whatever funky things people make up in their minds. I've heard all kinds of things, like a train hitting a stop bumper and a train station and the people flying through the train, and analogies, crappy crap like that. Anyway, and in the three-dimensional teachings we're talking about now, in the triple loop learnings, there's a shift towards more dynamic approaches on how to learn that flycasting. And instead of following set rules, like these principles there, questions are asked. Questions are asked about the whys and the hows, and about, for example, pattern recognition and adaptation. Problem solving is approached in a different way. Because the 3D teachings have learned that in the 2D teachings, you always look for the result and then you get frustrated and you run behind that result, and it's very hard to achieve it due to the delayed feedback teachings of the single loop learnings of the loop.
What is flycasting? It's bringing to life a fly rod and line through arm movement to create open-ended, unrolling loops with which to present an artificial fly to a target area.
You may not understand that now already, but you will the deeper you dive into these 3D teachings and also into the 3D learning success you get out of that. I mean, look at the comments you're getting here from people who tried that after even 40 years of fishing. It's amazing. And I thank you very much for any comment we drop here, Bruce. It's much appreciated. And a real-time adaptation, for example, the direct feedback, as I call it, or the closed-loop feedback in casting, the real-time adaptation during a cast is something the two-dimensional teachings completely miss out on. And in the three-dimensional teachings, We're not trying to force someone into a rigid corset, that single mold of the 4 or 5 principles that you have to learn by heart. No, we're going to make this a positive experience for you, a positive experience, and we avoid frustration at all costs. Because that frustration, that bad loop of bad habits, that circle of vicious problems will not make you want to go practice. You will only want to go practice and enjoy the process of casting if you're not making bad casts. And that is how you avoid frustration, because by not making bad casts, you will not get frustrated. This is a different approach. And we follow principles of controlled process learning. Flycasting is not about straight lines or loops. Flycasting is about a precise flow of energy and playing with rod and line. This is how you will learn this the fastest. And the tools of the PRFC, they will help you to naturally lose things like creep and rigid wrist or wristing in general, and to make you find a natural way to apply controlled power to the cast, as it is always called so loosely. And the tools will also help you to self-learn and to self-evaluate your casting. There is not a casting instructor saying this or that is wrong, or your line picture telling you this is wrong and frustrating you. There's only adaptive learning and controlled success. That's another reason why, if I were you, I would try a couple of these tools of the PRFC, because it won't take long. This episode is brought to you by Spainerdry, the only fly rod that is not lying to you. Find a way in the zone and go with the flow. We don't own the water owns us. In this part, we're going to talk a bit more about positive reinforcement and adaptive learning in fly casting. And what that positive reinforcement and adaptive learning does not do is say, don't break your wrist, for example. And there is none of these rigid concepts like keep your wrist straight or keep the rod tip in a straight line. What you learn here is how to feel the rod, how to feel the rod load, and how to adapt and adjust during a cast even, because that's missed out on the casting teachings in a two-dimensional casting, because there is no room for adjustment during the cast, because all happens so fast that the cast is already made and you look at a bad cast again. And then you have to fix that bad cast.
The problem with all instruction is that we get so overwhelmed with all of the details and things that we have to remember that we forget the essence of what we're doing. And the essence of fly casting is a very, very simple thing.
And what we do in a three-dimensional teaching is not we're fixing not bad casts. We try to avoid to make bad casts that we don't have to fix them. But we can do that only if we come from a point out and work out of control. But let me talk about this a little bit later, because what the positive reinforcement and the adaptive learning also does is it gives you a guidance and a tool set and understanding that helps you to find your success yourself. Because my research shows that this is very ineffective how the teachings are taught and worked and how they're doing, and they even confirm that yourself. And those teachers, they even confirm that themselves, else they wouldn't stand in the casting pool saying to people, but it doesn't work for 99.9% of the people.
And you know what? 99.9% of all fly fishing do this. Check this out, they go.
And check out the comments here from the people. The people who really commit to the tools of the PRFC. They make without exception really, really great progress, and they have great fun, and I guarantee you These people you're reading the comments here, they're never looking back to the old classic teachings, ever. Because they have noticed, through to their own commitment and open-mindedness, that the teachings that are suggested here are way more effective. Because one key here is never get frustrated. And you cannot get frustrated if you play. Workers get frustrated. Players never get frustrated, even if they lose the game. They might be down for a while, but they're back up and motivated to play again. Players of the casting game. This is what you want to become, a player of the casting game. This is what you will become with the tools of the PRSC and the motivation you get through that, because you are encouraged to learn how to feel a fly rod for yourself. And the casting skills you will build out of that are incredible. I know that already. All you have to do is commit to the practice. Do a little bit of rattle triggering, do a little bit of pendulum casting, do a little bit of fixed lining. Check out the comments, as I told you already. That brings us to looking deeper a little bit into controlled process casting, my other program I have brought up. Because the tools to play with on one side is what I throw open out here in the public, and what you are warmly invited to play with and to make your learning progress along. And controlled process casting is my casting program I have developed out of that, and out of the facts that come crossed over from science-based related sciences, from related sciences like the control theory, for example. And the 2D teachings, they're always about fixing something. They always have to fix a problem. Find your faults and fix them. Yeah, why are so many people making casting faults at all? If they would, now I'm just asking for the statement. If people would be taught properly how to cast, they wouldn't make that many casting faults, right? Yes or no? And even yourself, be honest, be humble, my brother, be humble. Your own casting goes to shit every once in a while too. It just does. And that's the casting you never see on the internet, on YouTube. Have you ever seen a caster making a bad cast on YouTube? Apart from me. That is why casting instructors talk behind my back. I can't turn over a fly, and I can't fucking cast. Bring your skills to the battle, boys. Bring your skills to the battle. So the 2D teachings in casting, they're always only fixing problems, yeah? And they constantly tell you what's wrong and what not to do, and it's a vicious circle, a vicious loop of bad habits in itself. Because it gives the whole fly casting thing for you a total negative touch. You do this wrong, don't have bad habits, don't go practice, your bad habits get even worse. Constantly something is nag, 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 almost like the wife at home. And 3D learning is not about that at all. It's not about telling you where something is wrong and what is bad. It's about helping yourself to find your own cast. It's about helping yourself to find your cast that is never wrong by default. Because if you find your own cast, it'll always be the best possible cast that you can deliver. So the 3D learnings are, at the end of the day, a process that will have you make no bad casts at all at the end of the day, unless you want them. But I got carried away a little bit again, back to the controlled process casting program of mine. That controlled process fly casting is, in my opinion, a much more effective way to learn fly casting. Because learning is not about just repetition. Practice that learn by heart 5 principles for... I did it for fucking 20 years, it didn't work. And you have no idea how much time I spent. I could burst into tears if I only think about that. So learning is not about just repeating crap that you have learned by heart that will take you nowhere. It's about understanding the whys and the hows behind every little movement, and also beyond every little reaction. That's why the 3D learning goes deeper and look into the direct feedback and into real-time feedback and adaptation. Because if you can real-time feedback and adapt to your cast, obviously the result is always going to be as good as it gets. Spainergy's here casting mighty. Best fly rods are smooth and lighty. Precision and power every cast righty. Hooking big fish from dawn till nighty. And instead of saying cast like this and that and try this, it worked for me, for example, the PRFC tools and the natural flow of things, once you commit to it, will be self-correcting for you. That self-learning and autotelic approach is something I highly recommend you to experience, at least for, give it 2-3 tries. If you don't like it and if it doesn't yield any results for you, go back to the 2-dimensional classic teachings, and I hope you get happy with them. But I can guarantee you that it didn't work for me, and that what I teach now, if I would have had that 25 years ago, oh my goodness, I'd probably become a casting fucking champion. The PRFC tools and the natural flow will show you the way once you commit to the exercises. I'd repeated already a couple of times, and I know it will repeat again due to the fact that it's just an autotelic approach. Self-learning is another word for autotelic, and self-evaluating and self-correcting is something the teachings in casting can't do, because another person cannot actually correct you in a way you could do that yourself. And in the PRFC, in the adaptive methods, we also take fly casting as a problem-solving approach. Now, and if you solve the problems during the process, you have always the same great result, right? Would you agree? If there's no problem from here to here, no problem will fly out of the rod. Yeah? That's what we teach here. But what are the problems in fly casting? Where are they? How deep do they go? And on what different levels are they? Because the teachings and the learnings, remember, when the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student is truly ready, the teacher will disappear. So, the different levels of student and teacher where problems are happening here are very obvious if you look a little bit deeper. And what we do here is we learn how to find these problems, how to diagnose them, and then how to fix your own personal casting tweaks. It's a bit like becoming it's a bit like this here. If your casting was your car and it wasn't working, you would hand it into the garage to the mechanic. And then you pay a certain price, you get your car out of the mechanic, and it's working again. Huh? But what we do here is we learn to become our own car mechanics. So that if the car's not running, we don't have to go in a fucking garage, pay a shitload of money to get it fixed, but that we can fix it our own before we even have to go to the garage. This is the difference between good casting and bad casting. So what's the conclusion? what is the take-home message out of all that blah blah? Wicked blah blah. The old school casting methods, they are by far not as effective as they could be to learn fly casting. I guarantee you that. And they also prove that over and over. Else we would have a far better, higher level of castles out there, and we would also have more better records breaking all the time. The old school methods don't work on multiple levels, else fly casting shows and fly casting instructor organizations wouldn't be about to die out. Just saying, you want to make yourself an idea up there why that is? Anyway, what I'm telling you is the 3D learning, the adaptive learning and positive reinforcement fly casting and controlled process casting will allow for greater success and a faster development of the casting, and for more enjoyment and faster results, and also for more fulfillment. And if you're struggling with your casting and someone says, just practice more, I suggest to you instead, don't go practicing, don't go working on that. Start playing. Start playing with the tools and let go, and start to analyze. To analyze what's happening, and do that, if possible, free of any emotions. Because the fly caster and the dogma is one of being made emotional about your casting. And I suggest you get rid of that emotion first, and also of your ego. Leave that out the door when you try practicing with the tools. Because these tools are not made for egos. They are made to break egos. It's your decision if you want that, but this is how you learn. This is how you learn how to make mindful adjustments, how to gain direct feedback, and how to make decisions even during the cast with the help of that real-time feedback. The play and the fun with the PRFC tools will make your fly casting great again. It will make it fun again to go out and practice, because fly casting is not just an art or a science, it is both. And it goes much deeper than you would have ever thought. And you will find that out hopefully soon. And the more we embrace those adaptive and positive reinforcement methods and teachings, and come up with even more stuff, because see, you have the positive reinforcement kettle is cooking, and we get more information and methods nearly by the week, and also comments with it. It's brilliant to develop the sport. Fly casting is not just an art, and also not only a science, it is both. And the more anglers will succeed in the future with these methods, the better we will be able to develop the sport and protect the environment. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope it was not too boring for you, and you can go out, find a little bit of time to practice. And please do not forget, we don't own the water owns us.